If you're a lineman in charge of keeping the lights on, Grainger understands that you go to great lengths and sometimes heights to ensure the power is always flowing, which is why you can count on Grainger for professional-grade products and next-day delivery, so you have everything you need to get the job done. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Welcome to Worldview Tube's Washington Report. Worldview Tube's Washington Report for this evening, June 3rd, 2025. Joining me tonight, as always, is Jim Pav of the conservativecaucus.org, theconservativecaucus.org. Well, the bromance, it's in trouble. The bromance is in trouble. Elon Musk says, I'm sorry, but I can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it. The big beautiful bill. I'm guessing that President Trump's not happy with Elon tonight. Jim?
I'm not necessarily. I haven't seen any response from Donald Trump of a negative fashion. I don't know what's going on internally at present. Actually, what I hope comes out of this is that Elon Musk can be that third party influence to call these people out. Listen, you know that I've been talking about the fact that I'm happy about the tax cuts in the reconciliation bill. I think making them permanent is great. There are some good things in the bill, but it really does not go to the heart of the real problem that we have in this bill, which is the lack of major cuts. We need major cuts in the federal government. Now, this bill is restricted to non-discretionary spending. That's stuff that is going to be spent like Social Security, because if you qualify, you get the benefit. But there are definite reforms that can be done there. And, I think this also sets up a serious discussion, hopefully, by Elon Musk, calling out Republicans if they don't move these rescission bills, the one of which just dropped today, that'll be coming out of the administration. So until I hear Donald Trump say something negative, I don't think the bromance is done. As I've said over and over again in recent months, the weak part of the Trump agenda is Republicans in Congress. They're the ones that won't get off their duffs and get deadly serious about what the American people voted for. And they could pay a price next November, in November of 2026, if they don't get their act together.
And okay, let's talk about Thomas Massie. He's doing a lot of talking about this, right?
Yeah. Listen, Thomas has been consistently frustrated with this process over and over again. There really is no effort to make very serious cuts. And he's one of the most vocal voices. And of course, he and Rand Paul are probably at the top of that heap right now. But over in the Senate, you got Mike Lee and Rick Scott and Ron Johnson calling all this out and saying we've got to do something. And if there aren't serious steps taken, we're going to miss an amazing opportunity.
Excuse me. Yes, we are. Now, I did notice today that President Trump did go after Rand Paul pretty hard today. By the way, Logan, is there something wrong with X tonight? Because every time I go to somebody's feed, it says they haven't posted yet. Everyone. So, good grief. X has had a lot of trouble the last couple weeks.
Yeah.
So nobody's feed's showing up right now. But anyway, I noticed that Trump is really going after Rand Paul.
Well, the reality is, and this may portend some rift between Elon Musk and Donald Trump that I'm unaware of right now. But Donald Trump does want to get these tax cuts moving forward. He does know that there is, it could be really, really bad if that doesn't happen. So he's been calling out Rand Paul quite a bit in recent weeks.
The big, beautiful bill is a big winner But Rand Paul likes to vote no. Okay. There you go. I think he actually said more than that today. I think that was just one of several.
Well, note on there, he said it's not, he thinks it's good politics is what Donald Trump said. Mm-hmm. Listen, good politics is cutting spending. And if the good politics he's talking about is moving this bill and then getting massive rescissions, sent over to Congress this year, all of which can be passed with a majority vote. They don't require the Democrats in the Senate. Then I mean, it's okay politics. Knowing how Congress works, these people just don't act on a lot of things, and leaving it to them to move these rescission bills, frankly, is scary to me. I'll be very glad if they will do it, but I don't know if they're going to. I'm hoping they will. I'm just very disappointed, as I have consistently said, over their approach to this reconciliation process. There were more cuts that could have happened.
This is a pretty tough tweet, though, you have to admit. Rand votes no on everything, but never has any practical restrictive ideas. His ideas are actually crazy losers. The people of Kentucky can't stand him. This is a big growth bill. Whew.
Well, so when he calls it a big growth bill, there's no doubt that the tax situation that's left behind will help growth. And no doubt the positive effect on the deficit will be greater with the tax policy that's in there, but it's not going to solve the tax policy problem. And this kind of gets deeply into the debate over how do you score these bills. There was a report that just came out today that showed that all of the economists and researchers at the Congressional Budget Office, they only ever give to Democrats when they give campaign money out. And that has always been a problem. CBO has been intransigent. They won't do what's called dynamic scoring. There is a rational scientific way to determine the effect of tax cuts or tax policy. And they never give credit for that in the scoring package. Remember, they come out with these things where they say what the 10-year effect of these spending bills will be. So they're doing projections into the future. They always count tax cuts as one for one removing dollars from the budget. That's a lie. That's never right. I mean, we've got, since the Reagan years, we now have 40 years of history that proves that the Laffer curve is real. When you cut taxes, you increase revenue. That is a hard fact. CBO will not score tax policy that way at all. They never will do it that way. But they always project out cuts that are going to be taking place in the future that never materialize. So it really skews the way to look at things. Their scoring after Donald Trump's tax cuts in 2017 is all wrong. They didn't even get one thing right. The CBO didn't in their scoring. So that's always suspect, but that's really the thing that Trump's talking about here.
Yeah. Let's go to Crimea, Russia, Ukraine. Here we go. Look at this. This is, I guess, one of the torpedoes used to take out some of the base of the bridge, one of Putin's bridges that he really likes, I guess. We actually got footage coming in overnight of one of the the bridge base being hit. This thing, every day we wake up, Jim, it's closer and closer and closer to being where nobody's going to want to go to the peace table anymore.
I'm going to tell you, it puts a lot of concern in my mind about what you said. It is going to become tougher and tougher and tougher. I mean, Putin's, for all of his evil, is a serious actor on the international stage, and he can wait this out. He has ways to wait this out. I hear no word of any political negative effect that he's experiencing at home. Of course, he is essentially the permanent ruler of Russia. It would be almost impossible to remove him politically. Every attempt that's happened since he became the leader of Russia in, I think, 2000 has failed. You know, he can wait this out. He can do whatever he feels like he needs to do. And, you know, this is, I don't know how we're going to get to a peace deal right now. I mean, Donald Trump may be able to pull something out of the hat, but this is becoming very, very difficult. But it is war. This is what war does. Ukraine feels like they've been wronged, and frankly, they have. And they're operating accordingly. I'm also very concerned about the fact, though, that they're not coordinating these military efforts around a rational way to peace. And that is a very big concern. I mean, it's not just how Putin will react. It's the fact that Zelensky's intransigent and he's working with CIA deep state operators and others who have embedded themselves into the Ukrainian effort that are not giving the president of the United States any real information that he can operate on, or at least as far as I know at present. So, you know, we're on the precipice of something very scary, very disruptive on the international stage, if there isn't an answer that comes soon.
Well, I hope people are, you know, listening to what we've been trying to tell them since 2013, when we started telling people to stock up. 2016, I finally admitted what I was buying in 2016, which led people to saying, well, what'd you get? Where'd you get it? You know, where can I buy it? So we started the website worldviewstore.com, where we list up all kinds of freeze-dried food that's real food, just freeze-dried, emergency supplies of all kind, because of either EMP, cyber attacking, bioweapons, you know, the just-in-time inventory shutting down like it did during COVID. And I hope people are paying attention, because there's a real war going on. People just don't know it for the most part, and it's affecting us. Our buddy Leo Holman put out tonight a brand new article. 2 Chinese nationals arrested in Michigan on charges of smuggling deadly pathogen into the United States. They're loyal to the CCP, guys. Remember the book from 1999 by 2 Chinese communist colonels, Unrestricted Warfare? Guess what this pathogen does? It goes after your crops. It's a fungus, I guess. And it is destructive. It affects crops all over the world, according to the National Library of Medicine. And it really goes after, I guess, wheat crops. So again, talk about your food supply, right? I mean, people better be paying attention to what we're talking about here, because we already are at war. And there is a coalition of nations: Russia, China, Iran, North Korea. So people better wake up and quit just, you know, worrying about, you know, social media and social media stars and goofy television reality shows, because they're going to be going through their own reality show, and it's going to be a nightmare reality show if they're not ready. Because we saw from Friday night till Sunday night how quick the news can just pop off all over the world. Comment on this one. Two Chinese nationals arrested in Michigan on charges of smuggling deadly pathogen in the United States, loyal to the CCP.
Yeah, and by the way, you didn't mention, although I know you know it, the risk to our electrical grid.
Yep.
I mean, we have an outdated electrical grid that has been at risk. We've known this for decades. We haven't done much about it. There are things that can be done to harm it as well. By means of EMP, maybe, that's one thing, but just by remote access to computer systems that are outdated and maybe not as secure as we might think, can harm an electrical grid. And we know that China's attempted to play with that to figure out what they can do. So, but in terms of this 2 Chinese people, I mean, that China really is the great threat ultimately for us, because they are willing to do things in a manner that that can pop up when you don't expect it. One of the things that General Flynn was talking about recently after this drone attack over in Russia is the fact that they had, over an 18-month period, housed the drones that implemented the attack into houses in vicinity of the air bases that they hit. They launched them from those houses. They had been ready to go for some time, and they were successful in their attack. Well, we've got the ability for that to maybe already be set up here in the United States or something similar to it, or so he claims. And I'm going to go with his expertise on this. There are a lot of potential threats there, and China is the big problem that we have, and they're going to have to be seriously dealt with. We're hearing about Taiwan again suddenly. I mean, there's a lot of danger out there. Donald Trump has come to that point in this presidency, where the real risk starts to show, and this is where his skill and capability and the skill of his team is going to be tested, and it's happening very quickly.
Indeed. Let's see here. I had something else from Thomas Massie I wanted to show real quick. Let's see here if I can find it. I got so many things open. Thomas Massie is warning about Deborah Birx. Apparently, Deborah Birx is working with, here it is, Thomas Massie. Just FYI, he used to be the chief of staff for Thomas Massie.
I did, yeah.
Deborah Birx is the worst type of person that gets into government. A complete hypocrite, holier than thou, telling lies cloaked in faux science, with the imprimatur of government legitimacy, and never held accountable. So she will rinse and repeat. And apparently, she's on the Palantir board.
Yeah, listen, the connections of what we call the deep state, and it has its various iterations in and out of government, but it is a serious issue. It has not fully gone away. I think Donald Trump has got some control of the situation now, or at least better control. This is a behemoth. We have built this thing up over nearly 100 years, that this thing we call the deep state has come about. It's a combination of coordinated effort, but not coordinated everywhere, and people who are just true believers in internationalist government. I was just before we got on the broadcast, the UN has just put out a report today setting guidelines for dealing with misinformation and disinformation, and suggesting policies for countries, member countries, they say, to do things about this. That we have an international cabal that is attempting to remove basic liberties from people under the guise of trying to protect it. That narrative, which Americans rejected in the last election, still exists amongst some key players in government and quasi-government agencies, and they do have the resources to continue to move what they're doing. The good thing is that Donald Trump's on the international scene, and he is breaking down that narrative internationally. But we have to be vigilant.
Yeah. I don't know if you heard my response to you when you heard United Nations. That's my response. That's a anti-Semitic, Christian-hating, Jew-hating, largely Marxist, Islamic-dominated criminal operation. Sex trafficking. I believe that's what they've been accused of by many people. They're blue-helmeted soldiers raping little children. I mean, they're Satan's spawn, and Donald Trump should really kick them out of the country. And I think Michael Young's right.
Yeah.
If you don't kick the United Nations out of America, you're not really going to accomplish much. This is the root of almost all the evil in our world, is the United Nations. And they were working with the Department of Homeland Security, setting up these little white tents all the way through the Darien Gap, all the way up through Mexico, coming to the U.S., giving them their little UN cards. They're all working together to invade the country. That's the United Nations. Their goal, the destruction of sovereign nations like America, so they can have what they've said they've wanted from day one when they were created, world government.
They do dislike and have worked to undermine the United States and other countries that would propagate freedom around the world. But the one thing that is, and you are right, they're just horrible heretical, and as you rightly say, Jew-hating organization by and large. The problem is they have influence in smaller countries. They have some footholds in Europe with people that agree with what they say. So when they put out the document that I just mentioned a moment ago, that will have influence around the world. We have threats in this very hemisphere, particularly in Brazil right now, of governments that are coordinating with China, that do what the UN says, that are restricting freedoms in a big way. And, so we do need to kick them out of the United States. I agree with that. We need to get out of the UN 20, 30 years ago. But that does not mean their influence entirely goes away. And it's something that we'll have to counter. We need to remain strong in this country. We need to renew our effort to understand what the American ideal is against the radical Democrats around the country, which is a minority part of the United States, but still a very large number of people who have this idea that Donald Trump is the evil one and that conservative ideas are evil. And Deborah Birx being on Palantir, I think we shared the video yesterday of the head of Palantir talking about how they took down right-wing efforts in Europe. What? Are you kidding me? There really are a lot of threats out there. Donald Trump has got to not be upset with Elon right now. Let Elon run, and try to influence Congress to get their act together. The big fight that he has, that we knew going in and remains such, is shutting out deep state actors from our federal government, reining in the bureaucracy to come to heel to the elected president of the United States, which is their responsibility, and keep up that effort. Make it vigorous. Don't get sidetracked from that. Tell Kash Patel and Dan Bongino to get their butts moving. Tell Pam Bondi to get her butt moving, and let everyone else that he's appointed, get their agencies together and weed out these problems as much as possible. It's the best security for us moving forward, and getting out of the UN is part of all that.
100% agree. 100%. Look at this. Polling used only paper ballots in Sunday's presidential election and finished counting all 21 million votes within 8 hours of polling stations closing. Voter turnout was 72%. Why can't we do that here in the U.S.? France does it too, I think.
Yeah, that is what we should be doing. It's what we did for most of our history. And again, someone's going to point to imperfections in a system like that there, and like we used to have, which was all paper ballots or those mechanical machines that you pull the lever on. That's why we have the terminology pull the lever. Those were very secure systems. They had problems, and there's no perfection in any of that. But we really kept voter fraud to heel when we had same-day elections on paper ballots or something verifiable that could not be manipulated from the outside. Those mechanical machines were very effective too, because they could not be manipulated from the outside. And so anyway, we need to go back to those kinds of elections. There are no secure elections. No matter what CISA said in 2020, 2020 was the most secure election in American history. Bull. That was patently a lie. The only way you have secure elections is same-day voting and printed ballots that can be verified. Even if you do optical character recognition on a ballot, it has to be physically verified. It was that physical verification that kept the 2000 election from being stolen in Florida, because they had to go out and count the ballots. And the Supreme Court stepped in 2000 because of the fact that particularly in Palm Beach County, they were attempting to extend things out and make it hard so that for the final tally to be done, so that the political pressure would come in at a proper time to cause a change in the election. That was the game. That was an early form of what's been taking place in the last 4 or 5 election cycles, and that had its preeminence this last election where you had congressional districts in Orange County, California, that were not counted for 3 months after the vote was taken. That's about political pressure. That's why you have to have this requirement that these votes get counted in a timely manner, which is no more than 24 hours in a good way. And if it goes beyond that for some truly important technical reason, no more than about 48 hours. You need to get this done because that's how elections get rigged or stolen or massaged in a way that is not beneficial to democracy. So that all's got to change now.
Let's go to the Middle East. We got rockets being fired today from Syria into Israel. So got a lot of hotbeds. Kash Patel's warning that an attack by China against Taiwan is imminent. You've got the mess going on with Ukraine and NATO and Russia. And then you've got Iran fighting, with their proxies throughout the region. And now Syria shooting rockets into Israel today. It's all over the place, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Because that happened, Donald Trump needs to tell the leader of Syria that he gave an olive branch to, you're done now. It needs to happen quick.
Yep.
We cannot have that kind of instability in the Middle East. I'm hopeful that the rest of the Arab countries that he met with just a few weeks ago feel the same way and will uphold that, stand with him on that. 100%.
What are you hearing and what are you seeing in any polls related to the midterms?
Well, right now, I saw, I can't remember what the source was. I only got a quick glance at it, but Republicans are doing very well in Americans' favorability when it comes to policy. The American people's sentiment right now is strongly in favor of the Republican handling of policy as opposed to Democrat ideas for policy. I think the numbers that I saw were 12 and 18% in a couple different polls on a similar question. The American people will stand with Republicans if they will advance the Trump agenda that was laid out in November. Democrats on the other side of it, they don't have a solid leader. They don't have a voice, and they keep doubling down on the messages that caused them to lose so badly last November. I see no substantive change taking place in the Democrat Party at all. Beyond, we're going to do $20 million surveys to figure out how to talk to white men when all you got to do is just figure out what normal is and then talk to them. And also semantical changes. The policy stays the same. They keep the same semantics going forward. And the media is not helping them either. Even though they are getting cover from the media in a sense, the media hasn't got the message either. They're not trusted. The American people do not trust the lamestream media. And that's not going to change anytime soon until you get something serious happening. Jake Tapper's book that recently came out was actually an effort to try to give credibility back to media. That's why he has feigned humility over not understanding what was going on in Joe Biden. It's not resonating with the American people. They are not getting that at all. It has been shot down in every way because Jake Tapper's on record with what he actually did compared to what he claims he did. So that was their maybe only hope for the media to regain some credibility in the eyes of Americans. It's not working. It's not happening. Only the most sycophant Democrat followers, radical leftists in the Democrat Party, they're the only ones that are buying that. It ain't flying otherwise.
Let's look at this real quick before we run out of time. Syria accuses Israel of escalation following Dara strike. The strike came after a barrage of rockets fired from Syria, southern Syria, on Tuesday evening. But the defense minister, Katz, said he held the Syrian president directly responsible for that. Yeah, so goes to your point. President Trump needs to now come out and say, sorry, buddy, you're done. Time for another CIA regime change in Syria.
Stop the regime changes, just corner them and keep them where they're at, keep them at bay. He's doing it with Iran too. Keep going that way. And Donald Trump can find magic often. So let's see if he can do it now. TheConservativeCaucus.org, TheConservativeCaucus.org.
Jim, as always, thank you for another great program.
Thanks, Brandon. Great to see you.
You too, my friend. Hey, and don't forget, folks, we're also brought to you in part by our foundation. WorldviewFoundation.com helps us push out news and information through the lens of a Christian worldview, helping you to understand the times. So please consider making a contribution now. You also find our mailing address there if you prefer to support us through the mail. So we got the Worldview Report coming up. We've got Brandon House Live. Tonight, we're going to talk about Peter Thiel and his fascination with the Antichrist, Armageddon, the book of Revelation. We've got a lot to get to tonight. And what was the real reason behind the Civil War? Woo, good topics tonight on Brandon House Live. Hope you'll be there. Take care.